One of the ways you make the comic industry a little bit more healthy is that you get more money in the hands of the creators. Now, this is an interesting prospect because right now the comic industry is definitely controlled by two major publishers that are part of a giant conglomerate over them. And the name of the game in a lot of cases is conserve cash. Basically see if you can get the same output for cheaper, see if you can find cheaper artists, cheaper writers, cheaper creators, pump out more, maximize what you've built. And in that world, it's hard to share the pie because your goal is to try and squeeze every last drop out of the lemon. I'm not sure that analogy works. Anyway, let's talk about how do we get creators more money and why is that so important for improving the industry. Hey everybody, this is Perch. In this video, we're going to talk about how can we get creators more money. What I'm not going to go into much about, I have already in other forums, is the topic of crowdfunding and the creators basically going into business for themselves. That is a viable route, absolutely, for creators to get more money. And right now, it's really the clearest one. There's other ways, but they're not clear. They're not straightforward in how they all go. So the idea of how do you get more money in the hands of creators, yes, you can certainly go crowdfunding, you can certainly go into business for yourself and do these things, but kind of the point of my video here is that shouldn't need to happen. And I'll use this as an example. If you work in the tech industry, if you work in pharmaceuticals, if you work in the medical profession, then your routes to make more money for yourself, to improve your financial situation, is not always quit your job and start your own company. Yes, it's one way, but it's not the only way. And in comics, that's really kind of the only way. You can certainly improve your following and become more in demand, and thus have a higher page rate that you insist upon. But it's not foolproof. It's very slow, and it requires still that you're depending on someone else. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you work in software and you work for, say, Amazon, and you're making $200,000 a year, but you'd like to make $400,000 a year, or maybe $1 million a year, you basically can go into business for yourself. You can start your own company. You can learn some specialized skills. You can apply for patents. You can, you have viable routes to make that kind of money. It's not a leap of faith as your only option. In comics, if you want to make more money, more page rate, more from the big publishers, then you can start a very slow process of building your audience, but the big publishers control your output. So it's not like this is completely within your control. You can go on social media and really try and make a big name for yourself and become a fan favorite that way, but you run the risk of pissing off other creators and editors. Marvel in particular doesn't like it when you go into business for yourself because they know you're trying to drive up your page rate. And in many cases, they'll stop giving you work or they'll pull the throttle backward to slow down your progress. So it's very, very tricky. And that's abnormal. That's not healthy for an industry. I think right now, and so here's some ideas, some thoughts. And if you are Marvel and DC, I understand how it's impossible for you to do this. If you're Image, you have your own whole thing going on and it's a different case. But if you're Boom, you're IDW, or maybe you're a startup of some kind, you're a comic publisher just getting going, then consider a couple things. First off, most publishers depend on the creators themselves to do the marketing for the work. This is true of Marvel and DC, where if you see the people out hustling for the books, you'll notice it's more often than not it's the creators. Sometimes it's the editors. Very, very rarely is it Marvel's actual marketing department or DC's marketing department. DC does a little bit of a better job than Marvel does here. Marvel will start to market things like, here's a cake recipe that looks like the Black Panther, or so on, as opposed to the actual books. Doesn't mean they don't ever market the books, they do. But just the volume, you will notice it's the creators out there hustling more than anyone else in the company. So if you're a small company, one suggestion is to do the very, very tried and true thing that people use for software all the time, and that's simply use affiliate codes. And what that means is if somebody goes and orders a book using your code, then you get a kickback, you get profit sharing of that book. And you might say, that sounds ridiculous, but imagine if for a moment, if say a Matt Rosenberg has got a Hawkeye Freefall book and he decides he's going to take several hours of his day to do interviews on YouTube, he's going to post on Twitter and Facebook, he's going to promote his book everywhere he can, and he's going to give you a link for where to order it. Maybe it's a digital only book. His last issue is a digital only, and maybe he's going to give out a link that has a code that traces cash back to him. Now, the reality is people who are discovering this book and going into this new platform like digital, odds are most of those people are going to be driven by Rosenberg directing them there. They're certainly not getting it by browsing kind of idly through marvel.com. Some people may just be, window shopping on Comixology and stumble across it, but the most direct marketing is going to come directly from the creator. So why shouldn't the creator get a kickback on it? They're doing the work. Why shouldn't they get some of the revenue on that opportunity? I think that that's completely viable. Another way to do it is you take a look at what maybe Sean Gordon Murphy has done with the Murphyverse. I don't know if that's the official title. I gotta ask him that. But his imprint, basically, if you're a company, and again, this would work much easier in a smaller company, a bigger company, and you come and you say, I'm going to curate a line for you, then rather than demand some money up front, meaning the creator has to pay in, if the creator is going to do the auxiliary work, the marketing, the promotion, the curation of talent, finding some of the people, doing jobs that in many cases some of the editors do to actually make this line, then that person should get some profit sharing from that line. Maybe there's a recoupable where the first 100,000 goes to the publisher, but then after that point, it would go to the creators themselves, or at least there'd be some revenue share. I think that one of the biggest ways to increase some health in the industry is by giving creators a financial incentive to do largely what they're kind of silently expected to today: market, promote, push, aggressively pitch these comics. If you give them a financial incentive to be part of that chain, not only will they do it a little bit happily, but also it breaks down that ugly stereotype, that ugly situation I mentioned earlier, where if a creator really goes into business for themselves and starts to draw up some interest and promote things, well then they're kind of penalized by their peers. There's this social pressure not to, or the publisher feels some social pressure to limit those activities because they don't want to have the page rate driven up. Well, imagine if instead of your page rate or your contract going up directly, if instead the percentage of revenue sharing, profit sharing went up. So let's say you had a tiered system, again, very common for other industries, where the creator makes a title, the writer finds an artist, they do a title, and for the first 5,000 copies of the book, the creative team gets 2%. And for the next 5%, 5,000, they get 5%, and the next 5,000 get 10%. So basically create a graduated scale that increases over time, that the more that sells, the higher the profit share. In addition to just higher revenue, because you're making more money, the higher the percentage of revenue gets to be for the creators. Why that's so cool as a concept is it definitely motivates the creators to do more. If the creators get more popular, then the publisher is not paying out of pocket for this stuff. The publisher is, sharing the revenue at a higher percentage to the creator, but they're still making money. They're still making quite a bit of money, especially if you have a book that say, and this would be perfect for Marvel's more lower tier line. And this actually could be a great feeder system for the big publishers, where the books under 50,000 copies, the major characters, the Hulks, the Avengers, the Spider-Mans, the Wolverine, etc., maybe those books have a flat rate, just like they do today. But why not, for example, if you're going to commission people to do a book like New Warriors or Alias or Mosaic or these kinds of new experiments, why not enter into a 1 year kind of profit sharing deal where you encourage the creators, the writer, the artist, to really go out and push and pimp the book and do some additional promotion in exchange for more profit sharing. And then if the character becomes a more mainstay title, then it bumps into a new rate where the pay is flat and the creator gets that. But several creators might choose to work at the bottom level and then aggressively hype and promote their books. So if you're Matt Rosenberg, for example, maybe you say, oh, well, all right, I could take the X-Men gig and get paid, this is $10,000 flat, or I can take these lesser known characters. I'm going to do something with Karnak, and I'm going to make a Karnak book, and I'm really going to put my own effort into it, and I'm going to try and push the attention, and I'm going to really try and build it. And so I'm guaranteed, half that. I'm guaranteed 5,000. But because it's a lower tier book, I get some profit sharing if it gets up to a certain level. I'm motivated to grow it to that 50,000 cut. That may be a great way to actually do something with these books that sell in the 20,000s or lower at Marvel and DC that nobody quite seems to know what to do with. And these books are ones that Marvel's hoping will catch with the audience. They're hoping that they'll build an audience and then have another, strong seller on their hands. But it's almost guaranteed not to, because they're lower sellers. Marvel has limited marketing to almost no marketing, so they're not going to put in the effort to actually promote it. And so the only chance it has of being successful is if it's a fluke, people just kind of magically stumble across it, or if the creators, like I've been saying, put a bunch of effort in to make it a success. And if the creator puts a bunch of effort in to make it a success, they're not guaranteed any of the benefit of that. So what's the point? You know what I mean? It's a lot of creators won't take that gig. They'll do something else. And so that's the challenge I think that a lot of these books have. But these are just a couple ideas. I'll probably wrap this up here. But in general, I want to introduce a topic that if you want to help comics grow, one clear answer to how you do that is you encourage, you create more money for the creators. You basically get more incentive for them to do activities. And if you do that in a healthy way, you'll take away some of this, like I said, this weird stigma. And I have probably a whole other video I need to do on that topic, but there really is a very strange stigma against success. And it's been more, I've seen it happen in threads where a creator will go and will really try and reach out to the fans and really trying to build an audience and really try and promote what they're doing. And other creators have this almost kind of jealous, angry reaction to that. Like, how dare you do that? How dare you reach out to those people? And this isn't just a social thing. People are thinking about kind of the general social battle that goes on Twitter. But even beyond that, there is a almost natural gravity to want to attack people that go into business for themselves. And that's the phrase I always hear, too much. But comics needs people to go into business for themselves. So it's an interesting dilemma. Anyway, what do you think about all this? Are there other ideas? Hey, leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your suggestions. Like, subscribe, introduce my channel to a friend. I would very much appreciate it. Trying to build up subscribers here. So very, very appreciate it if you do that. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch and Facebook too. And thanks for listening.